Life Audio.
Welcome to Empowering Homeschool Conversations, your authority in navigating the world of homeschooling diverse learners. Featuring Peggy Ployer from SPED Homeschool, Annie Yorty from AnnieYorty.com, Leilani Melendez from Living with Eve, Stephanie Buckwalter from eLARP Learning, and Dawn Jackson from Dawn Jackson Educational Consulting and Tutoring. With over 75 years of combined homeschooling expertise, experiences, and perspectives, this group is eager to share their wealth of wisdom to empower your homeschooling journey. So grab your favorite mug, settle in, and get ready for insightful discussions, valuable insights, and practical tips as these experts and their guests dive into the hottest topics in homeschooling. Whether you're a seasoned homeschooler, just considering this path, or anywhere in between, you don't want to miss a minute of these enlightening conversations that will empower your child to thrive in their homeschool environment. Empowering Homeschool Conversations is starting right now. Join us to give your homeschool the power boost it needs to successfully educate the unique learners in your home.
I'm your host, Annie Yorty, and I'm here with my co-hosts today. We have Leilani Menendez, Stephanie Buckwalter, and Dawn Jackson. Unfortunately, Peggy Ployer hasn't been able to join us because of some challenges with electricity due to the storms down in Texas. So we just need to pray for her and that she'll get through all of that. But today, we are going to talk about mental preparation for moms who homeschool diverse learners. Now that's a mouthful, and we know that in the summertime we often take a lot of time to pick out things like homeschool curriculum and set up our learning areas and things like that. But we also know that half the battle of homeschooling is just that mental part of the battle. So today we're going to address that, and the panel's just going to have a conversation amongst ourselves that we hope you can take some tips away from, that you can be encouraged by. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into it here, because there's a lot of mental preparation that sets us up for success as we homeschool. And so some people this summer are thinking of homeschooling for the first time, and others might be just coming back for a new year where they've already been homeschooling. But let's talk about what mindset shifts are necessary for us to embrace homeschooling our diverse learners. And we'll just throw it out there. We have the four of us are here, and we can just all discuss it. But let's just think about that and see what we have to say here. Anyone want to take that?
Well, I'll jump in because I have both a mild, all of my children as of this year have now graduated. But I had a child with mild learning disabilities and one with more moderate disabilities. And then I also have 3 other children. So when I was homeschooling all of them and my child with mild disabilities, I just had to prepare myself to be aware that his brothers could easily jump ahead of him in certain classes. And I just had to prepare myself to figure out how to navigate that throughout the year and how to plan in such a way that it would include him where he would still feel like he's being successful. And then with my moderate daughter, that's a whole nother ball game. She was 4 years she's 4 years separated from my last child. And so she's was able to homeschool her alone towards the end. And that one was just mentally preparing for the battles until I figured out a good homeschooling method that kind of got her out of fight or flight and helped her ease into the day. And then homeschooling became a lot easier.
I can share.
That just goes to show that there is a lot of mental preparation. It's not just about finding that perfect curriculum. Dawn, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, I think you have to take into consideration your background. So I know for myself, I came from a teaching background. So I had these giant expectations of what the day would look like and how everything would be laid out, and it just runs smoothly, but you don't anticipate the mornings where someone's very sick or you didn't sleep all night, and you're just kind of like pushing through every single moment. And I think if you can keep in your mind that there's no perfect day, that there is what we call like a learning curve, or a transition. Each day is a new day, and each day is a day where you're going to have to hopefully pray and rely on God's strength for that day, and also His help. And one of the other things I was thinking about, though, is with change. If it's your first year homeschooling, there's so much transition. You just don't know how it's going to necessarily work out. So just being easy with yourself, just having like grace for yourself and the journey. That whole first year may not go as you hope and intend it. You might go to some seminars and read some books, and you're like, I got this. And then it just doesn't look like that. And there's frustrating days and hard days. But in the end, I promise you, you will be so blessed, and you will look back over those years like I do. My kids are all grown, and I'm like, those are the best days we ever had together.
That's some great advice. Planning for just setting your mind that it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be whatever that perfect expectation is that you're having. I think, setting our expectations is 9/10 of the mental battle, probably. Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on that, Leilani?
No, the only thing that just came to mind is understanding that your child is not going to hit all the benchmarks, and they're possibly going to be going slower, but it's okay. Let that happen. Just kind of walk with them and work at their levels. Because I know my youngest daughter, I thought by now she would be able to read something, and we're still struggling through a lot of it. Also understanding that maybe the curriculum is not the best for them, and that you have to switch curriculum even though you had high expectations for it, and being flexible from day to day, and just learning from them on how to teach them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the things that Dawn said reminded me of something I just started thinking about. I am still homeschooling my daughter. Instead of going 4 years of college, she's doing, homeschool college. So I'm still continuing to homeschool her, even though she's officially graduated. I don't have to report to the state anymore. But it reminded me of what I have to do is mentally prepare for 3 kinds of homeschool days every day. There's the ideal day where things go like you expect and you actually get something done. Now I'm talking about a child here who has moderate intellectual disability. So things can fall apart pretty quickly. The total failure days where you just have to give up on the academic part of homeschool and work on life skills, or just building a relationship with your child and helping them learn coping skills, things like that. And then there's the days where you can take a break, regroup, and keep going. And it's like every single day I have to be ready for any of those and, plan for them, basically. Not on paper, but plan mentally to that any of those can happen any day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, great point, Stephanie. No doubt we have to be very, very flexible as moms of kids who learn differently. Whatever the situation is, we can go from mild to extreme, but we do have to be flexible and ready for anything sometimes. I always said I had to be a mom with a big bag of tricks, like depending on the situation. You wind up with that. And it's the same with homeschooling. We are also, if you've kind of had a public school background, either your child went to public school or even you're starting to homeschool, but you went to public school, you have kind of a mindset or a picture of what that looks like. And we're hearing from all of us, I think, that we have permission to stray from that. We don't need to stay in that little box of what that looked like in a classroom with 30 kids or whatever. We can switch it up. We don't have to worry about an IEP. We can adjust on the fly as we learn. I loved what I think Leilani said about learning from our kids about their needs and how we can teach them. So there's that. And the I think it helps to mentally prepare, like Stephanie was talking about, for behavior issues. My kids have, I think every kid has behavior issues, and we can prepare mentally for that by thinking about how to set them up for success, maybe by controlling environment to the extent possible. But, that's not a fail-safe. And we do set up expectations for our children so they understand that there are boundaries for them. That makes them feel more secure, less anxious. They understand what to expect, and then they're more likely to have good days with those behavior expectations in place. And then, of course, we all fail. We all have a bad day, knowing how we'll adjust as moms or dads to that.
We will continue this conversation after a short break.
From the Kendrick brothers, the creators of War Room.
Miss Clara! It's hard for a woman to call out the man and her son. I just need some prayer support.
We pray that the Lord will open Isaiah's eyes so that he could see himself the way that the Lord sees him.
What kind of man do you want to be? Isaiah, welcome to The Forge.
The Forge, in theaters August 23rd. Rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Tickets and showtimes at theforgemovie.com.
What impacts you every day? There is one book that influences almost every aspect of our lives. Museum of the Bible reveals the Bible's impact on your favorite musicians and artists, the way we measure time, social justice, our national monuments, and more. The Bible's impact is all around you. Discover how at museumofthebible.org/impact.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com.
There's a lot to unpack in that one little question about just embracing that journey of homeschooling our diverse learners. We then can let's move into the idea of, okay, now every day when we start the new homeschooling year, how can we mentally prepare ourselves in a more specific way for each homeschooling day? You wake up in the morning, what makes the homeschool day start out well and what we can control. Are there any specific routines or practices that you all have found to be helpful, or maybe even things that didn't work? That might be instructive as well.
I was just thinking about kind of this new question and then the last question, how important it is to make sure that in your heart, this is God's plan for your family and that this is something God has led you to. And you'll know that because he'll bring things into your path and he'll open doors and you'll meet people. And it's like he's showing you, this is what I have for you. And even though you may not have it all down and you don't know exactly what the curriculum's going to be or whatever, he will show you. And I would even say, in the morning each day, and this is just standard, right? But spend that time with God and pray over your family, pray over your children, pray over your, weaknesses and confess your weaknesses to the Lord, confess your doubt to God. Like, Lord, I don't have the strength to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm afraid. I have fear around this. And confess that fear and find that strength in him and in his word. And then when you get those scriptures, you pop them up there because the enemy will come, and doubt will come and try to take you off this. I've worked with parents where this has happened to them. They're like, oh no, it conflicts too much or it's too hard or whatever. And they didn't give it enough time to let, the hard things fall. But really remembering what God showed you, journal that, put that in your journal, pray over that. And then pray over your children. I used to like to pray over my children when they were sleeping. And I would just go in and kneel down beside them on the bed and just lightly not wake them up. They weren't ready yet. But, just really like, like, Lord, be with us today and help us. But just giving it to God, because it really is, his story is, our story is his story. Like the ultimate goal of all of this, right? I mean, what is your objective? Why are you doing this? For me, it was, I want my kids to know the Lord. I want my kids to know truth and not be taken down a path where there wasn't truth. So those are just remembering your major points that you're building your home on and your school on, praying with, if you have a husband, really praying with him through this, and, being honest about where you are. So that's like important. That's important for me.
Well, that's definitely foundational, spending that time with the Lord in the morning. The Word of God transforms us. And sometimes, the homeschooling is as much about God transforming us as our kids. So definitely relying on him, knowing that we can rely on him. And I would just add to that if you make your first thing that you do with your children, other than eating or whatever you do, is spending time with them in the Word. Right. Bring them into that, because God's Word speaks to us at any age. And, it doesn't eradicate our sin. So we'll have problems. We'll all have problems with that sometimes, but it certainly does transform our minds and our hearts so that we're more aware of him and his presence. And our children need that as much as we do. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I bet there's much more to unpack with this one. So let her rip.
Well, I found that as I've gotten older, my children have gotten older, I need to find time for myself in the morning before my daughter wakes up, so that I'm calm and I'm filled up and with a quiet time, with just doing things that I can do. Because most of the day it's a lot of interruptions with my daughter, and I have to get that couple of hours to myself with no interruptions, because then I feel like my day has already started and it started well. So if I can get up early enough to start my day well, then it's easier to handle when the day doesn't go well. And starting with a quiet time is part of it, and also starting the school day with prayer has been helpful for me too.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah. What about you, Leilani? Do you have any thoughts on what else we can do to mentally prepare and gird ourselves up for each new day?
I mean, I like what she said about praying. And I think the biggest thing that we've been doing is we're praying more in between things through the day. And
That's
yeah,
mm-hmm.
like not just the mornings, but I mean, the mornings are great, like waking up with no kids and getting yourself mentally ready. Like, more power to you, because I am a night owl and that never happens. But the rare times that it has, like, have been amazing. But just giving it to God with every little thing throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely, I think, the best piece of advice to give. Someone mentioned interruptions to the day. Well, every one of us could raise our hand if we say, we're interrupted many times. Yeah. So I also think, like, as we sort of think about how to structure our time of the day to, or the week, to think about things like appointments that we have to do. I don't know about you guys, but my daughter had lots of appointments, and all our kids can have lots of appointments or outside things they need to do. So to the extent possible, what I would suggest is trying to set aside one day of the week where you try to schedule as many of those within that one day as you can, so that the other days are going to be relatively interruption free from at least that type of thing. I know once I start running with the kids, for this or that appointment in the middle of the day, it can get, everything just kind of blows up from there. So I would suggest that. As I know it's not always possible, but it does help your days go a little more smoothly. And you kind of have that expectation, oh, well, Thursday is the day we're out, and we're not really expecting to do so much in the house or, whatever, or academically on that day. So again, it's got to do with expectations, because when you're trying to cram it all in, and there are interruptions every day, we get stressed by that, don't we?
Mm-hmm. You guys ever heard of the car homeschooling? Have you heard? There's like a little program you can do. So you have
I thought that was my term, because that's what I call it.
We all do that.
You can have say you have that Thursday and it's okay, we are just hitting the road. Well, everybody has their little satchel, the things that they get to do in the car. It could be coloring for the little ones. It could be, books that they're reading, whatever. But it's like we're doing, car school.
One of the things that we did when we had those car schooling days is we would listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, listen to audiobooks. You have it kind of like intentional, though, about things that, in their bag. They have their little snack. I always think about what we did. We didn't really do car homeschooling. We did more like walks in the morning after everyone got up, and then they did their little art journals along the way. So they had a satchel with their little journal, their little watercolor kit, their little spray water. I mean, it was so cute. And they would draw a flower. Then we'd go home. They just quickly sketch it. We go home and look it up. And then we would write it about it. That was kind of that classical approach to, or what is her name?
Charlotte Mason.
Charlotte Mason. Yeah.
It was Charlotte Mason, which I love. Charlotte.
Annie said
lots of great ideas. Do you have some more to add there, Stephanie?
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I like what you said about knowing your family's rhythms and how to, with scheduling everything at certain times. One thing that I had to do, and it kind of went against the grain with how I raised my neurotypical children, and that was my daughter loves to shop. And so my idea was, well, we'll do school all week, and then shopping is the reward on Friday. Well, the problem is she has a lot of anxiety around leaving, going places because she likes it so much. She just fixates on it. And so I found that what was easier with her was actually going shopping on Monday morning. That was our school in the morning, was our shopping trip, and it still is to this day. And then that relieves the anxiety for the rest of the week. And so I had to flip. Instead of using it as a reward, I used it as an anxiety killer. So sometimes we have to flip our expectations, like you're talking about, of what we think, how we think things should go. And, what we use for rewards is different than what we would use for neurotypical kids.
We will continue this conversation after a short break.
From the Kendrick brothers, the creators of War Room.
Miss Clara! It's hard for a woman to call out the man and her son. I just need some prayer support.
We pray that the Lord will open Isaiah's eyes so that he could see himself the way that the Lord sees him.
What kind of man do you want to be? Isaiah, welcome to The Forge.
The Forge, in theaters August 23rd. Rated PG, parental guidance suggested. Tickets and showtimes at theforgemovie.com.
What impacts you every day? There is one book that influences almost every aspect of our lives. Museum of the Bible reveals the Bible's impact on your favorite musicians and artists, the way we measure time, social justice, our national monuments, and more. The Bible's impact is all around you. Discover how at museumofthebible.org/impact.
This is Empowering Homeschool Conversations, provided by SPED Homeschool, a nonprofit that empowers families to home educate diverse learners. To learn more, visit spedhomeschool.com.
That's great. We have to release some of that control, don't we? It's hard. The struggle is real. I know, just thinking about that, I have a couple of kids who are very strong-willed, and they don't necessarily like to be told or like to have, help with or oversight all the time. So another thing that just helps relieve some of that, the battles and things that we have to be prepared for is to help them to be more independent, to set things up so that they don't have to keep checking in with you as often. To the extent that they're able, I would prepare their materials ahead of time, sort of like the bag, Dawn, that you were talking about in the car, but it was at the home. And so it would have like a folder or a box with whatever they needed for each activity they were going to do. So they could, and I would put down like some instructions or something that they could read. So as they moved into that stage of reading and all that, they could begin to work through without me, hovering over them. And it relieved me of, for some time and it gave them that sense of independence that they really craved. So preparing, is a big part of that, because if you don't have it set up, then it's harder for them to be independent. So,
have you ever heard of folder school? No, just kidding. No, there's like folders, right? Like I've seen parents where they put each subject in a folder, and all their child does is come and pull out their folder. Maybe it's their math folder or their science folder, but it's all compartmentalized so that there isn't, where's my math? But mom might rip out the sheets of math or the sheet that you're going to do that day, and then have a couple of words, directions, or whatever. But it's not folder school. I made that up. But
no, we didn't call it that, but that was essentially the same idea. And then there was choice about, what do I want to do next? They didn't have to be directed for everything. So it just lets them have a feeling of ownership in their own education. And so some kids don't need that, others do, but knowing your children and what makes them tick and motivating them is a big part of it. So, good stuff. But nevertheless, even if we had it all together, I feel like we would still have some stress, right? We all feel stress from time to time with any child. And I think, our stress multiplies exponentially when we have a child with diverse learning needs and we're managing that parenting role and the homeschooling. There's a lot of stress, to pile on to just normal everyday family stress and work and life. So, we need to learn how to manage that stress so that we don't get burned out. Earlier, Dawn, I believe, mentioned that, she has parents who they feel like, they're a failure, or they doubt their calling because they get stressed and burned out. So how can we avoid that and manage our stress so we don't, put ourselves in the grave early?
I'll go. Is it okay if I go first? I'll go first.
Absolutely.
Because I get stressed out very easily. And I feel like it's an ebb and flow kind of thing. But I think that having a routine in place, that when we get to the point where we're completely burnt out and we can't function anymore, that routine's in place so it doesn't slow us down and we don't feel guilty. I mean, we can slow down, but the routine is still there, that we're in some kind of, we can keep going without feeling guilty. Because I think that also comes with the whole package of feeling burnt out and stressed, then you feel guilty. But I always try to, I think the thing that I get most stressed out about, honestly, is the behavior problems that I run into that I'm not ready for. And the acting out, and when we're in public and she plants herself in the middle of the floor and we can't go on, or like she gets in, somebody gets in trouble at the homeschool co-op, and then all that's the stuff that really starts to stress me out. And I think having some kind of hobby that's outside of everything that I can just almost, I hate saying this, but like escape to, that has really helped me a lot. Of course, also getting enough sleep and enough and I'm not one to speak about the sleep part, but getting in the right kind of nutrition and the vitamins, the food, and, making sure we're eating, but also not eating too much or eating the wrong kind of stuff. And that's one that I think everybody struggles with just in general. Like, that's a hard one because sometimes we want to, gravitate to our coffee and our chocolate. And, whenever we're feeling stressed, and that's not necessarily good for you, but having, finding ways to replace that with something more nutritional and, those kind of things.
And coffee can create more stress, actually, in your body.
Yes.
Oh, no. Say it ain't so.
I know. Mine's coffee. That's my thing.
Yeah, I know. But it actually does. It actually, I was talking to my chiropractor about that. I was saying, I don't know why I'm feeling these certain aches in my body. Could it be connected to the coffee? And he said, yeah, because it's stressing your body, right? It increases your cortisol levels, right, when you drink it. So that creates stress in your body. So I had to stop drinking it, and the pain went away. It was like the inflammation from that. That's not, and then I was like, well, I'll just have a taste of it. It didn't work. Like, I'm now literally drinking tea, but I drink like green tea, which has less caffeine. There's all those things, but you have to take those things into consideration of what could be stressing me out. If you're a mom sucking on a cup of coffee till the end of the day, and then you're not sleeping because that'll impact your sleep. So those are things to take into consideration. And I think sometimes parents are moving so fast that they are not, especially the mom, she's not going, what am I doing that's working or not working for me? And how do I change this behavior? So that's the hard part, is changing behavior. And one thing I learned about changing behavior is it just takes one tiny act. So instead of getting up and going, I'm going right for that coffee pot, maybe I'll go for a glass of water with lemon. Or just, a nice cup of green tea or something, where it just takes one tiny movement in the direction of making a choice that actually can impact your whole entire family, really, if you think about it. So, yeah, those eating healthy and all that impact stress as well. So if you're eating unhealthy or just, let's call McDonald's, it was a rough day. Okay, that's okay. But how many times a week are you doing that? So it's not to shame anyone. I've been there for that. So I was an older parent with my kids. So I had all these really high, we've talked about this before, high expectations, what I thought it should look like and be like. And I wanted it to be the best. But, you learn grace, you learn kindness and compassion for your journey too, because this is a growth thing for you as well. But so we're still talking about stress. Did I take that off to another direction?
Well, we talked about how how we treat ourselves does impact our stress levels. What if we're eating, unhealthy all the time, then our bodies get stressed. And if our bodies are stressed, our minds get stressed, and little things can send us over the edge. So that's part of this topic for sure. There's a lot more to it as well. I like how Leilani said about the routine, having a routine that kind of will carry on if we need to take a moment, to step out, that the routine does help. And then, sometimes switching it up will break a pattern, a negative stress pattern. But I bet, Stephanie, you've probably never experienced stress, but maybe you've heard about this.
No, it's interesting because my daughter slips easily into fight or flight mode. It sends me into fight or flight mode. So we both kind of live in fight or flight mode. So one thing that about avoiding burnout is learning the tricks to get her out of fight or flight. And it can be through music therapy. It can be through taking a walk. I'm trying to think of one of the other things we do. Doing something that isn't as brain taxing, because she has brain issues, kind of like a TBI, a low grade TBI all the time. So doing things that don't tax the brain, doing stuff she thinks is fun, being funny or stupid in the teaching of the material helps. But then I ended up in fight or flight, and then cortisol levels are always elevated. And I got to the point a couple of years ago where it wasn't just burnout, it was physically, my energy was low at the mitochondrial level. I mean, it wasn't just, oh, I'm tired, I'll sleep, I'll feel better tomorrow. It was my mitochondrial, the cortisol had been going on for so long that it finally tanked at a cellular level. So, and like you were talking about, Dawn, that was very appropriate, because that's exactly what I had to learn was what contributes to my wellness. Greens, the B vitamins. If you've, been in fight or flight for a long time, it drains that. Get those B vitamins back in there. Eat a lot of greens. Eat healthy. And the things that take it away, I found out, are coffee, even though I still drink it. Sugar, any sugary foods, processed food, all of those things take away from health when I'm at that energy level. And so I have had to learn to control like you're talking about, even just those little tiny changes, just controlling what goes into my body until I build the energy levels in my cells back up. I mean, it gets to that's what shocked me, was I finally realized this is going on at a cellular level. This isn't just a mental, mindset thing. I can't just change my mindset and make things better. I have to physically take care of my body to get it back up. So that even if I am slipping into fight or flight, it's not doing that energy drain every time.
Also, I want to just ask you really quick too, Stephanie, do you do any kind of self-regulation practices, like through breathing for yourself, right? To help kind of regulate and get you grounded, because we know as parents, if I'm off, that's going to impact my child too. And now we're all just spinning out together. But is there anything that you do, like, breathing, or, okay, mommy's going to take a break, I'm going to go in my room, or I don't even know if you're able to do that, but just step away or put some music on, like you said. What do you do that helps you with that?
There's several things. I do the breathing, where I breathe in for 4 counts and then breathe out for 8, or breathe in for 4 and then I'll go from 8 to 12 to, I can make it really long, and I know that lowers my heart rate, but not my blood pressure. I checked it. It does change your blood pressure, but it does lower your heart rate. And I also have a little mechanical foot massager that I run on my feet. I listen to, there are only specific artists that it works with, but Christian music with very specific artists that I can tell there's some depth behind those songs and behind the music. You can kind of feel it. And those things will raise my energy levels. And prayer, reading the word.
Yeah.
There's, but, I can't always do those in the moment. Like you said, can you really slip away? No, I can't just pull out my phone and start reading the word in the middle of something. Yeah. So those are kind of more in my quieter times. But even massaging my own feet, if I don't have the little mechanical one, because sometimes the sound of it sets her off and she gets mad. So I have to use what's available.
That's really good.
I feel like it could be a whole nother topic in of itself. But there, I hear a number of you just saying to take a break of some sort, whether it's just a moment of breathing or doing something funny, laughter. If you can find something to, like, we have at our fingertips a phone with, like, for me, funny animal videos do it. Yes. And actually for my daughter also, like, to take a pause and just say, let's just look at these pictures or these videos and just get some laughter going. That can switch it up, or just remember too, we're circling around why we're homeschooling. We're not homeschooling just to get from point A to point B academically. And I'm very guilty of that. My personality is goal oriented. So to me, the daily goal is get through these activities that I've planned. And the day rarely goes quite like that. And so for me to be able to say, I can take time out. This is not the main thing. The main thing is that I raise a child who, of good character, who loves God. And we deal with hard issues that come up, or, and sometimes it's not a hard issue per se. It's just they're having a hard day, and it's just part of their diagnosis or whatever. But to allow yourself to say, I don't need to finish this today. Tomorrow's going to be a new day with new mercy in the morning. So that's great. Do any of you struggle with this feeling that you're alone?
Any of you struggle? Okay, done.
No. Yeah, well, we'll talk about this specific one for a minute, but just a feeling that it all depends on you, that you're in it alone. Don't you think that really contributes to this stress that we feel and feeling burned out if things aren't going quite the way we envisioned? And how can we get out of that mindset that we're alone in this?
I think the world gives us a lot of that pressure too.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I think one thing that I was learning about recently, that at my late age in life, God never stops teaching us, right? Is when I learned that my story is God's story. God's story living through me. It's not about me. All the things that I've done or what I want to achieve or anything. I used to get so caught up in all of that, but it's all His, and we are a reflection of Him. Mm-hmm. And if we can just get that burden off of us, saying, this isn't about me. This isn't about me showing the world, look what a great mom I am. Look what a great homeschool mom I am. Or, I'm going to sell 1 million tickets at my next event or something. It's for the glory of God. And it's really that question of, God, how can you live? How can you shine through me? How can you shine through me to my children, to my friends, to the world out there? And I think if you go in it with that perspective, instead of it's about you and it's, a reflection of you. And I was guilty of that. Yeah. I had married into a family that were big homeschoolers already. So they kind of set the path, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to catch up with them and do what they do. And oh my goodness, my sister-in-law she created homeschooling, I think. She was just one of those people, She would create her own curriculum and all the little things. And I was just like, whoa, okay, that's what I have to do. And it was very daunting for me. But had I had more of the mindset that my life is in God's hands and He's given me life to know Him and to glorify Him. There's no guarantee how this is all going to work, how it's all going to turn out, but if you can go in it with, this is God's burden. It's not my burden. It's for His glory. It's not for my glory. In 300 years, guess what? No one's going to know our names. No one. 300 years. Dawn Jackson who? No one's going to know. Mm-hmm. But hopefully there will be souls in heaven as a result of the journey of knowing Christ and sharing that love with others. So, and hopefully that's our children and others that we meet along the way. I don't know. That's just my thing that I've learned at this late age in my life.
See a lot of heads nodding here on the screens.
Yeah. I'm like, should I end the recording now? No, I'm joking.
Should we just sing an amen?
You said, no, it's funny because you said something, Dawn, about, looking at your sister and how she's building all her own curriculum, but also recognizing that God made each and every one of us so incredibly unique. We can't do everything on our own. And I think sometimes we feel that pressure from the world that we're supposed to do everything on our own. And then we create this little bubble around ourselves. And then we start to feel lonely, and we feel like we have all this pressure and stress on ourselves when God did not create us to do things. We're supposed to be a community. We're supposed to rely on each other, and we're not supposed to be jealous of others, and we're supposed to love each other. But He's feeding, like you said, we're a vessel. He comes through us and other people, and we all, I don't know, it's like a big, I don't know how to explain it. There's no words to really explain it, but it's a community. I guess that's the word.
And just the fact that the four of us are here is that you're not alone. And if you're listening to this, you're not alone. And the other thing is that, and you may think, my child and, what is their future like? Why am I having to go through all these things? But if you think about it, each of our children here on this call are contributing to what we're sharing with you. And so as long as you are, living, doing the best you can with your child and sharing with others, coming alongside others when they need help, when you find someone in need, that's a big part of what we're doing here, but also what you can do individually in your own lives. Is you may feel alone. I know it's very isolating. We should do one on isolation, the feelings of isolation when you have a special needs child. But there's so much, I think day to day, it's easy to be isolated and feel alone and like you're doing it alone. But if you can just lift your eyes and look around a little bit, which I know is hard, you can't always do that in the moment, that there are other people, and you just, it takes effort to find them and connect with them. And it may not be in person, it may be online, but don't go it alone. You don't have to go it alone. And even our SPED Homeschool, the website, Peggy has changed it over. I don't know if all of you listening to this are aware, but she has changed it over to more of a Facebook type product where you get an account and you can go in and start talking to each other. Now we're just setting it up this summer, so it's just now, starting to grow and build some momentum. But that's a place where you can go and find connection. Don't try to do this alone. Peggy's trying really hard to find ways to connect our community, our homeschool community online at SPED Homeschool. So please take advantage of that.
Yeah, and it was funny too that you said that, because I was talking to Peggy and she said something to me about how each and every one of us that she's bringing on board are so unique and different. That, there's people that you will connect with, like your personality will fit with one person, or, there's such a diversity among everybody.
It's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. This platform is going to really take off, I think, and be a huge, huge resource for the homeschool community to connect. Those kinds of connections are great. And then also, we need to find some in-person connections when we can. That can be hard depending on the nature of your child's disability or diagnosis. But, that community is one of God's ways to help us through this life. So, I think one of the things is we get into that mindset of thinking, oh, if I don't do this by this certain time or whatever it looks like, I'm going to ruin my child. My child's going to be ruined. And it's not, they're not going to be ruined. I can just say that looking back, I know how much I stressed about things like that. This is, as we said before, you're not alone. There are people that God puts in your life. And then best of all, He's always with us. He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. He loves us more than we can ever know. And He loves our kids. And He loves our kids more than we do. And so when we get into that mindset, we can realize that, the stress lifts and we don't fall into that loneliness and doubt and discouragement. So I would say just reach out too when you feel like you're really stressed. Reach out to someone, reach out in prayer, reach out to someone and talk about it. Be transparent, and there's encouragement there for you. We don't have a whole lot of time left. I think what we'll turn to now is some practical tips and advice just for keeping that mindset going, that the correct expectations, things like that. We've given some along the way already, but what practical tips or advice would you offer to moms who are just starting their homeschooling journey, or, there are those that have started, been in it too, that need to hear this. So just let's think about that, because summer's a good time to reset and rethink how we did things the prior year. And so this is a great time, starting in the fall, to try a new thing. So maybe you'll pick up a tip here.
I have two little things. I know we have little time. Real quick, grade levels. Stop it. Just stop it. Okay? I'm so tired of hearing because I'm on Facebook groups and stuff, and it's like, my child's not working at the third grade level. So what? What is the objective here? Go back to your objective. It is not about the grade level. I'm sorry. I know you want your child to work at a third grade level, and they're in third grade, but that is not always realistic, and that can actually deter you from your goals here. Mm-hmm. So, if you're thinking, but someday I want him to go back into school, or I want him to be in a program. Okay, but right now, if this is your first year, or this, you pulled your child out because you're thinking they're so far behind, I can help them. That's true. And they will progress faster in a smaller group setting, and one-on-one is amazing. And I totally, completely love that. But you've got to get that out of your head. You've got to that's my opinion. And I'm sure you guys have your opinions, which I'd love to hear. And then the other thing is, I'm going to be a mean guy today. Get off social media. Stop it. Stop scrolling what other homeschool moms are doing. It's so overwhelming, all the different, I've seen people go, well, I'm trying to find a curriculum for my child and then you get 20 offerings. And this is, you guys, I'm just going to plug here a little. This is why I love my school, Solomar, because we identify exactly how that child learns and exactly what kind of curriculum they would need. We're not all over the map. We're kind of like geeks when it comes to curriculum. So if your child's more of this type of learner with this sort of an interest, we pair those. And that's something you can do on your own. You don't need us to do an assessment, but we do that if you want it. But you can also be attuned to that. How does my child learn? Are they pretty much going toward their computers all the time? But why? Because that's also giving your child a dopamine hit. It's giving you a dopamine hit, but it's not healthy. I'm telling you right now. So I'm going to be the mean guy here today and say, stop the social media, because your brain will get so overwhelmed and you will get exhausted just by going, oh, I have to try Beautiful Feet, or I have to try, this curriculum or that curriculum. And now you've got all this curriculum in your closet and you don't know what to do with it. Right?
So Dawn, first coffee and now social media. But you make an awesome point, because that whole social media thing is promotes all this comparison, and it's sort of like you're going to get on a horse and you may not know how that horse is going to ride or whatever, but stay on the horse for a while. Once you've picked a horse in this, or a curriculum, just stay on it, ride it out a little bit. Don't start looking around and thinking, oh, maybe this or that. You'll make yourself crazy.
Yeah. So Ask the people that that are, that have been doing this for a while. Trust them, and then take a really good look at it yourself. See if you can find some used pieces, and then look it over and go, yeah, no, this will work, or modify it, right, to work for your child. You don't have to go, no teacher does that. I'm a credentialed teacher. We never follow the curriculum. Oh, we got to do every little part of it. They give you so much. You can pick and choose, or just focus on the supplements. You don't even have to buy the whole curriculum. But my whole point with the social media is, it is overwhelming. It's so overwhelming that you're going to want to quit, because it's too much information. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying. And so do yourself a break. Just find that little group that you trust. Don't put that big question out there on social media, because you'll go crazy with all the answers and options.
Yeah, I agree about it too.
I'm going to be nice.
Well, another thing, and I'm going to speak here to the parents who have more severe kids, because that's what I have most experience with. And that's When you have a neurotypical child, the process for teaching homeschool is you shop for curriculum, you plan it all out, and then you teach. And the reason you can do that is because the curriculum has a table of contents, which turns out to be your scope and sequence. Scope is what you're going to teach in a year. Sequence is the order in which you teach it. When you have a special needs child that is like 2 or more years behind grade level in the core subjects, the 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic, you can't start with the curriculum. You have to start with goals. You have to set, okay, this addresses the problem when they're not on grade level. So when they're not on grade level, you start with goals, not with curriculum. And you set the goals like, okay, my kid is in 5th grade reading at a 2nd grade level. Your goal is not going to be to go out and find 5th grade curriculum. It's going to be to find something that your child can learn and grow with from where they're at today. So you set goals, and then you shop for curriculum, and then you do the planning, and then you keep planning all year long when it's not going, because normal curriculum isn't designed for kids like ours. So you have to adjust, you have to make adaptations, you have to do all these things. And there's one more point in there I forgot I was going to say, but the idea is you can't start with curriculum like you would a normal child. So if you're saying, what curriculum do I have? I'm going to be mean too. That's the wrong question. The right question is, where is my child today, and how much do I think they can move forward in a year? Mm-hmm. And then you have your starting point. Your starting point is not curriculum. Mm-hmm. And that's a common mistake. I made the same mistake. Okay, I'm guilty too. So I'm kind of preaching at the choir here. So
I love that. That, to me, that is like, that just blows out this whole conversation today. Like, I think that was just amazing. I was coaching with a mom the other day, and she kept saying, well, I want him to do this and this and this. And I said, the goal here is that he would even go over to that space and turn on that book, or that, whatever computer. I think he's like more computer learner. And just, if it's 2 minutes, that's it. Yay. That's a celebration.
Because that's where he's at.
No, don't tell him, because he'll get upset and I'm not doing that again. But in your heart, you're going, okay, that's the goal. Like you're saying, the goal is we're going to have to build the routine. The routine is we're going to try, right? It may not be that. And do you know, just with her having that mindset, he is actually doing much more. Mm-hmm. It's really amazing. Just backing off from, we got to do this and this and that, to a goal. Like the goal, and I keep telling her, the goal is for him to have the mindset, we do school from 9 to noon, and then whatever that looks like, it looks like. That's so great. Great point.
And as a matter of fact, I am through the SPED Homeschool website. I'm going to offer a series of 1-week challenges, one for developing a student profile, one for setting goals, and one for planning. So I'm not sure when this recording is coming out, but if it's already past the date to get them live, they should be there recorded. So you can still learn from it and glean. But I'm going to offer those challenges this summer to help people get the right mindset and get their plan down based on their child, teaching the child, not the curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Those are going to be some great resources, Stephanie. Because what you're talking about is powerful and freeing as a homeschool parent, to realize that you're not bound by a particular curriculum or grade level, that we are going to take our child where they're at today, and then our desire is to see forward movement over time. We cannot predict necessarily how long that's going to take, but as long as over time we see a trajectory of movement forward, that's our goal. That should satisfy us and keep motivating us to keep on keeping on.
Because you have to ask yourself, what is the objective here? That's something I was working with about asking the parents, what is the objective? Not what is the goal of the curriculum? What do we want to accomplish? But the objective is that our children would want to learn.
Mm-hmm. Leilani, in our couple of minutes that we have left, maybe you have a tip or advice you want to add to this conversation?
I mean, I don't know. I think Dawn's pretty and Stephanie. I don't know. they're right. Listen to them. And I'm excited to hear what Stephanie's challenges are too. I don't really have much to say.
Well, no, you've given a lot. Thank you. I since they've been so serious, I'm going to add a frivolous one today. Okay. And I'm going to say, have fun. You shouldn't be like slogging through. I mean, some days that feels like you're slogging through cement, but try to make it fun, switch up how you do things, schedule a party for no reason every now and then. Keep your sense of humor. That really, really helps if you can just find a sense of humor about certain situations. I think, those are some tips and advice that I think they've seen me through some really hard days.
So instead of, watching social media, you can create. This is what we do. Sorry. We'll recreate social media. We'll get creative and be goofy. We're quite goofy.
Goofy is good sometimes. Yeah. And when they see that you can be goofy and just laugh, it bonds you as well to your children and them to you. So, that's well, we've gotten some great information. I thank you all for joining the conversation and adding the wealth of your knowledge. And I just thank God for what he's done in your lives, like was mentioned at the beginning, and our kids. All of that story that he's been writing in us goes into this and hopefully pours into the lives of all who are coming online to join this conversation. I trust that our homeschooling friends have picked up some good tips and advice to think about over the summer and maybe implement a few of them starting with the new homeschool year. Be sure to join us next week for a new episode of Empowering Homeschool Conversations. And we always look forward to seeing you. Until then, take care and God bless.
I want to take just a second to thank the team at Life Audio for their partnership with us on this podcast. If you go to lifeaudio.com, you'll find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in their network. They've got shows about prayer, Bible study, parenting, and more.
This has been Empowering Homeschool Conversations.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for working everything out for my good. Help me trust in your perfect plan. Amen.
Father, thank you for loving and caring for me.
With Christian prayer meditation, you can pray along to prayers based on specific topics. Go to lifeaudio.com or search your favorite podcast app for Christian prayer meditation. You can also download the Abide app for biblical meditations at abide.com.